Can you begin by telling us how you think about the loneliness epidemic, where it comes from, and its implications for public health? What accounts for the increasing exhaustion we see among physicians? Some have called this moral injury due to a dysfunctional system not allow us to live up to the ideals that led us to be physicians.
Well, thank you for that question, and I want to just say from the outset how thrilled I am to be here with all of you. You know, I know many medical societies in the country, but I have a special place in my heart for ACP, not just because I'm a fellow internist, but also because when I was nominated to serve as Surgeon General, I didn't have the smoothest confirmation process. And it had to do with the fact that I had the foolishness to say after the horrific Newtown shootings that claimed the lives of so many children in Newtown, Connecticut, that I believed that gun violence was a public health issue that we needed to address with urgency. And the honest truth is, I didn't think I was making any statement that any one of us in the profession would make. It didn't feel like a revelation. I felt it was a truism. But you know, reality is slightly different in Washington, D.C. compared to the rest of the world, and suddenly became a firestorm. And it was the opinion of most that I would never be confirmed as Surgeon General because of that statement. But the ACP, interestingly, an organization which could have stood back and just let this all play out, decided to actually publicly voice their support for my nomination and for that statement. It was one of those risks which is not necessary to take, but which sometimes you do when you see an issue that's important, an issue that may be moral in nature that you have to address. And I will always remember that the ACP did that, and so will always be profoundly grateful to this organization. On the subject of loneliness, if you had told me, Darlene, that you and I would be sitting up here, if you told me this 5 years ago talking about the subject of loneliness, I would have looked at you funny. I would have said, nah, that's probably not the case. We'll probably talk about tobacco or opioids or something else of that sort. But this is an issue I really came to be educated on during my time as Surgeon General by the people I met in communities all across America. Because when I began my time in office, I started with a listening tour where I went and visited big towns and small cities all across the nation. And I asked people this very simple question, which is, how could I help? And then I tried to listen to what they said. And people told me stories about addiction. They told me stories about their struggles with mental illness, about issues around obesity, heart disease, and diabetes in their family. But what they often didn't say, but what became very clear in their stories, were also these threads of loneliness and disconnection that many people were experiencing. They didn't lead with them, but their stories were undoubtedly often about that. I remember, in fact, a radio interview that I was doing with Iowa at NPR. And my favorite part about doing radio shows is actually when people call in at the end and you actually get to talk to real folks and understand what they're thinking. And I remember a woman called in and she was in tears and she said, I'm so distressed because I just sent my daughter off to college this fall. And she came home for vacation. And she said to me, she said, Mom, I'm around other kids all the time, and we were physically there. I'm surrounded by company, but we never really ask each other about each other. We never really know who the people next to us really are, what they care about, what their experiences are. And she's like, I just feel so alone. And this mother was just in distress, because she said, I sent my baby to school thinking she'd be a part of a community that cared about her. And now she feels profoundly alone. Where did I go wrong? A man called in right after her, a man in his 40s, and he said, my best friend died a couple of years ago, and I've been feeling profoundly lonely ever since then. But I haven't known what to do about it, and he said, particularly as a guy, I feel like I can't go out there and tell people that I'm lonely because it feels like I'm somehow not masculine or man enough. What am I supposed to do? A woman called in after that who was a long-distance truck driver. And she said, I'm in my truck most of the time. I haven't had a romantic relationship in a while, and my friends, it's hard to keep in touch with them, and I'm lonely all the time, and is there something wrong with me? Like, what am I supposed to do? And I started realizing through stories like this how common loneliness is. if you look at the data around this, the data around loneliness is not as good as the data around diabetes or hypertension. So we don't fully understand with great precision the prevalence or incidence of loneliness. We don't understand exactly who's at greatest risk of being lonely. But if we look at some of the initial data, and you take a conservative approach and look at the studies that have the lower numbers, they would still peg loneliness rates among adults in the United States at around 20%. And that's people who actually admit on surveys that they're struggling with loneliness. And the